we have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti Podcast. We are always talking about outward change in a social structure, either through violent or peaceful means. But the problem is much deeper than mere social change. Hello and welcome to episode 297 of Urgency of Change. The Krishnamurti Podcast features carefully selected extracts from Krishnamurti's recorded talks. Each episode highlights his different approaches to universal, timeless themes that affect our everyday lives, the state of the world, and the future of humanity. This episode's theme is activism and social change. Upcoming themes are children, detachment, and harmony. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in the UK, which is also home to the Krishnamurti Retreat Centre. Situated in the beautiful countryside of the South Downs National Park, the Krishnamurti Centre offers retreats individually and in groups. The focus is on inquiry in light of Krishnamurti's teachings. Please visit krishnamurticentre.org.uk for more information, including our volunteer programme. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. Finally, if you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This episode on activism and social change has 3 sections. This first extract is from the third discussion with young adults in Saanen, 1968, and is titled, Where Should Change Begin?
We do need a political, religious, social, and psychological change deep down at the very roots. Now, how is it to be brought about? And where do we begin? Which end of the stick shall we take? At the political, social end, or at a totally different level, which is the psychological end, which may have a relation with the change to be brought about in the other, which is social, political, or is there a revolution, a change, a total thing that will cover all this, right? That will cover political, social, psychological change, revolution. One can see the danger of starting a political change at, say, on the political or social, that the communists have done it, other political, other revolutions have done that, but it has led to the same pattern, modified, right? And purely psychological change, which is to be concerned with oneself, though the others exist, to be concerned with oneself though one lives in a society in which communication is necessary, otherwise there is no relationship, is there a total approach to this whole problem? I don't know if I'm making myself clear. Psychological, social, political, religious, the whole thing. We have so far tried political, social changes. And they have, after killing millions of people for an ideological reason, have built a society where freedom is denied, which gradually is becoming bourgeois, conservative, as was shown in the recent French revolt when the communists voted for de Gaulle. So, you can see how this is happening. So one asks oneself, not as an individual opposed to the community, or community opposed to the individual, where shall an intelligent mind begin? An intelligent mind that sees the psychological change necessary, political change is necessary, and a social change without upsetting the order of relationship too drastically. Now, where shall we begin? If that was your problem, where would you start? First of all, is there such a division? We take it for granted there is a political, religious, social, psychological change, but psychological divisions. But is there such a division? There may be a political action which is fragmented from the rest of it, and so on. But we're asking, is there such a division at all? Or such division exists because in ourselves as human beings are fragmented. I don't know if, right? Am I conveying? As a human being, I am a political entity and a social entity and a family entity. And act differently in each field. Because in myself I am fragmented. Right? I vote conservative and think revolutionarily. And I am religiously bigoted and want universal brotherhood. Or I believe in a particular formula of relationship and I want peace in the world. So, being as a human being fragmented, broken up, my actions are contradictory. Right, sir? So where am I to begin? I am not trying to push in a particular direction. I'm not. I see this thing as is. how man is divided in himself, in his action. Political, religious, social, individual, family, and all the rest of it. So where shall I begin? So if you say begin with myself, I have to vote tomorrow. I have to be in social relationship. So shall I withdraw from all this? Political, religious, social, withdraw. And wait till I have perfected my own mind, my own state, and then vote, act. I don't know if you follow what I'm talking about, if I'm making myself clear. So is the problem clear? Huh? If the problem is not clear, our answer will not be clear. Say, for instance, I am a Hindu, but I am not, but I am a Hindu with all my prejudices, all my superstitions, ancient conditioning. And I talk about having universal brotherhood. The two are incompatible, aren't they? Right? Are they not? I'm a nationalist and I talk about international. It is phony. So I, as a human being, not as an individual, as a human being living in this world which demands fragmentary actions. The world demands it because we have created the world as it is. And I respond to it always in fragments. Right? So, what am I to do? If you were here, sitting in my place and I was there, what would be your answer? Seeing the Catholic Church has tried through religion and empire to hold the people together historically. And it broke up process and so on. Then the communists came along and said we must have a monolithic attitude towards life. One solid communism, which again is breaking up. Czechoslovakia, Romania, Yugoslavia, China, breaking up. Napoleon tried this, right? Through wars, to bring all Europe together. Then there is the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth, the British Empire, which broke up. Then there is the common market, which some want to expand, remove the frontiers, one government, one monetary system. But there are groups of people who are against it. So, religious organizations throughout the world have tried to unify man. And they have not succeeded. Communists try to do the same with their ideology, with their brutality, with their... and the Nazis tried in their own way, the brutal way. And so on, so on, so on. And in America, the same problem is arising: the black against the white, and the feeling that way, all the rest of it. So, where am I living in this fragmented world? What am I to do which will not be a fragmentary action? Right? Otherwise, I'll be lost again. Is that clear? Huh? Then what shall I do? There are two problems involved in it, aren't there? I must change, and also I must vote. If voting is allowed, whereas in communist countries it's not. So I have an action here, two actions. I have to psychologically change, bring about an inward revolution, and also I have to act politically, socially, in relationship. Now, is this possible? You understand what am I clear? I'm making myself clear? I am changing. I say I must bring about a total inward change. Of course, there are all the biological instincts which I can't yet grapple with. But psychologically, perhaps I can do something. But also I have to live, go to the office, go to the factory, go and do something to earn a livelihood. Do I wait till I have completely changed myself and then act, and that action won't be fragmented? And to change myself will take a long time. In the meantime, the water is gone beyond my control. You're following all this? So what am I to do? Big one. Can't we change while we are acting? Vote tomorrow. And change. Vote for a conservative, liberal, for the Democrat or the Republican or the Communist, whatever it is. And also change. You see the difficulty? Look, may I put it differently? I am a human being living in this world. I have my sexual, biological urges, which I have inherited from the ape and so on, so on, so on. They're all there. And I have to live in a culture which demands political, religious, social, communal activity, all fragmented. And I'm also fragmented, terribly broken up. I have the primitive urges, biological, deep-rooted urges, which contradict the social demands, and I have ideological demands. So I live in a world within myself, fragmented, broken up, and I don't know what to do. I go and join the communists, want to hope, and I see what it does to the world. And they believe that only political action matters, nothing else. Because that means a political action that will bring about work for everybody, food for everybody, shelter for everybody. But in that ideological utopia, there are all these broken up nationalities which are going to fight that. There is starvation in India, real hunger, poverty. And yet they want to remain national, exclusive. And so the problem will go on. They don't say, let's drop all nationalities, let's all work together to bring about food, clothes and shelter, because it is necessary. Let's forget your ideology and my ideology, your nation and my nation. Let's all cooperate to feed the world. Not according to your system or my system. Let's all work together. That doesn't exist. Right? You have your system which promises to feed the people. I have my system which promises to feed the people, and we fight over the system. We forget the people. So I see this. The brutality, the awful things that are going on in the world. And I say to myself, my God, what am I to do? I'm a social entity, a political entity, a religious entity, torn up, right? Drawn in different directions. And I say, what is the total action that will answer every demand totally? Right? Is this clear? If I see the problem very clearly, right? The problem that there must be some action which will be total, which will cover all this without fragmentation, right? There must be an action, right? But first I must see what is in front of me, right? The communists, the socialists, the Republicans, the Democrats, the Catholics, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the nationalists, the ideologists, right? They're there in front of me. All of them demanding my action, right? So I say, before I begin to act, do I see the problem very clearly? Right? Not what to do yet. You know, if I have a map of this country, very in detailed map, and I want to go someplace, I look very carefully, don't I? First. I look. Then I choose the various roads and so on, right? In the same way, is this problem very clear? The problem, not the answer to it.
The second extract is from Krishnamurti's first talk in Rome 1968 and is titled, Can We Change the Social Order?
You know exactly what is happening in the world. There's tremendous lot of violence, uncertainty, fear, organized, flourishing anarchy in society. Society has become a structure in which there is war, in which there are separate, organized religions, each at war with other. There are there are nationalities divided against each other. And man, throughout the world, has lost faith. He doesn't trust anybody anymore. Neither the religions, nor the priests, nor the leaders, nobody, nor their own parents. Because the older generation has created a monstrous world. A world in which there is constant war, insecurity, and so fear. Religion, whether it is the religion in this country or in India or in the Far East, which is Buddhism, it has no meaning whatsoever anymore. Though the priests in all the organized religions talk everlastingly about being kind, loving, in the name of God, in the name of Christ, in the name of all kinds of deities. But the fact is, there is a great deal of hate, antagonism, brutality, violence, greed, envy. And man is beginning to realize that there is nobody he can turn to help him out of this chaos and misery. So what we are going to do is examine the facts, not the supposed facts, nor what we think we should be. Because ideologies have very little meaning anymore. Whether you believe in God or don't believe in God is a matter of conditioning. You are conditioned in this country, like in India or elsewhere, except in Russia and the communist world, you are conditioned to believe in God, in a Savior, through the priest, through the church. And so are they in India, conditioned through 2 centuries in the Western world of propaganda, made to believe. So you are conditioned in the belief of God and all the rest of it. And the communist world, they are being conditioned not to believe in all that nonsense. So we human beings, through propaganda, through clever intellectual groups throughout the world, in the past as well as in the present, we are being conditioned by words, by various formulas, ideologies. And we have divided the world not only religiously, but also nationally. India, Europe, America, and so on. And also the world is divided by ideologies. The capitalist ideology and the communist ideology. And ideologies are always absurd, they are idiotic. They have no meaning whatsoever. What has meaning and what is of great significance is what is, not what should be, or what might be, or what might have been in the past. You know, when man is terribly confused as we are, he either resorts to the past, to the culture in which he has been brought up, hoping thereby need we have go through all this? Huh? Hoping thereby to shape his thought differently. So ideologies have failed. Education has failed. They give you marvelous technological knowledge. Go to the moon. How to run a computer. How to kill thousands of people from great distances. But we haven't solved our human problems. That is, how to live together as human beings, together, cooperating together. Find unity between man and man in his relationship. And that's the only thing that matters, and nothing else. Not the beliefs you of gods, churches, rituals, priests, the experts in war, but how to live together as human beings, peacefully, with love, generosity, and without violence. That is the basic problem. Otherwise, we're going to destroy each other. And we are. We have become so colossally self-centered, selfish. Because as we said, society is organized to function anarchistically, in chaos. So every human being is concerned with this primary problem. Is it possible to live in this world, earning a livelihood, having great technological knowledge, and yet not destroy each other? To live at peace. Because peace is necessary. Not the peace of the politicians between two wars, but the peace in daily life. In which there is no competition, the destructive ambition, the separation between the black and the white and the brown and the blue and all the rest of it. And is it possible? Is it possible to live with a mind that's highly capable, highly intelligent, and therefore sensitive, and with that love in which there is no hate, no jealousy, no envy, and this being the central problem, and this has been the problem throughout the ages, to find a right relationship between man and man, to live peacefully, to live without hate. That has been the major issue throughout the ages. And man hasn't been able to do it. We have lived probably many millions of years, and we haven't been able to solve this problem. And religions have offered an escape from this problem. Because religions have admitted war as a way of life. And we have accepted war, conflict, battle in relationship as the way of life. These are all facts. And we have come to a period when man has actually lost faith, trust in everything organized, religiously, spiritually. Of course, we must have the organization that gives you milk and delivers you letters and so on. But the superstructure which man has built, which is producing wars, riots, separation, naturally one must totally reject such a society. So there is a revolt against this society by the young, the Capellones, the hippies, and so on, the Beatles and all the rest of those people, the youth. They are in revolt against this structure of society which breeds war, hate, antagonism. There are two kinds of activities. Either one is a total revolutionary, or one merely revolts. We are using the word revolutionary not in the communist sense of the word, merely a change of economic conditioning, or or overthrowing one government by another, and so on. The bloody revolution. We're not talking of that at all. We mean by a revolution where man, who has been so heavily conditioned for centuries by propaganda, by words, and to completely free himself from the structure of society which he has created psychologically through greed, through envy, through ambition, through brutality, to completely bring about a revolution there, that is of the highest revolution, complete mutation. If that does not take place, then revolt, as most young people throughout the world are doing, then without understanding the whole structure of society, how it has been put together by man. Man has invented his gods. Man has created a society which is corrupt. Man has divided into countries into nationalities. And without understanding this structure, merely to revolt against it is to fall into another trap. So we have this problem. Youth revolting against a structure and perhaps falling into a new trap. And he will. Because he does not understand the psychological structure which has brought about this society. And the real revolutionary is the man who understands completely, not intellectually, this social order, which is himself. He is part of that social order. And that being the problem, that man has to change radically, fundamentally. There must be mutation in the very brain cells of his mind and heart. And that has been going on. People have said, you must change, you must act. You must change your mind, your heart, you must be something totally different. This has been preached for thousands of years by men who are serious, who are very earnest, and by those who are just charlatans, exploiting people. And we have come to a point when we have no time at all. Please do understand this. We haven't time to take this change gradually. So the intellectuals throughout the world have realized this. That man is on the edge of a precipice. He's going to destroy himself. No religions are going to prevent it. No gods, no saviors, no masters. And all the nonsense of the gurus. So the intellectuals throughout this world say We must invent a new drug. A golden drug that will bring about a complete change chemically. And the scientists are probably going to find such a drug. I do not know if you are aware of all this. And can a drug, though the whole physical organism is a biochemic result, can, by taking a drug, the super drug, can such a drug make you love? Make you be kind, gentle, generous, non-violent? I do not think so. I do not think a drug can make a human being love another. Love is not a product of thought. Love is not something to be cultivated, as you would cultivate a flower in a garden. Love cannot be bought in a drugstore. And yet that is the only thing that's going to save man. Not all the religious tricks, all the rituals, nor the army. One may escape to museums, to concerts, to various forms of amusements. But man now is facing a tremendous problem. Whether he can change, radically bring about a total mutation in his whole consciousness. And not tomorrow, not a few years later, but now. That is the real issue. Whether man, whatever country he lives in, with all the beauty of the land, can he so radically bring about within himself such mutation immediately? That is the issue. Not what you believe, your ideologies, your gods, your priests, your saviors, your rituals. They have no meaning anymore anyhow. So, what we're going to discuss, talk over together during this talk and the next two talks is to find out, if you are at all serious, to find out if man, if you and I, not theoretically, not intellectually, verbally, but actually change. the whole way of our thinking, the way of our thought, and therefore the way of our life, which is, life is relationship. Otherwise, if there is no relationship, you cannot live. Even the monk in his monastery, which is really an abode of escape, even he is related. So, relationship means life. And when there is conflict in that relationship, whether it is within yourself or with your neighbor or with your wife or your husband, with anybody, then life becomes a battlefield. And we have made life the daily living, which ultimately ends in Vietnam, for which we are all responsible, not the Americans. They are responsible, as well as the Italians, the Americans, the Russians, the Indian. Everybody is responsible for every war. Because we are human beings, we have created wars. That's part of our life. And to say the Americans are dreadful people, violent people, so are you. We don't feel this responsibility at all. You know, we were walking the other day in a field with woods. There wasn't a single bird, and it is springtime. And two men went by with guns, shooting birds. And you're brought up to kill animals to eat. Your whole life is violent. I don't think you realize how terribly serious the whole thing is. If one felt utterly responsible for every war, then we will create each one of us a different society. We'll have a different kind of education, different history books. But we are not interested. We don't feel we are responsible. And that's why the younger generation is revolting against you. And they must. But unfortunately, if they don't understand the nature of human beings, they will create another society which will be corrupt and destructive in another way. So the problem is how to bring about this change in the human mind and the human heart. Whether intellect can bring this about. That is, the capacity to think very clearly, logically, sanely, objectively. That is the function of the intellect. But the intellect as we see now in the world, has brought about this destructive society. The intellect has invented guns. The intellect has invented class. The intellect seeking security in gods has created the organization of belief which is called religion. That is, thought has brought about this structure which is called society. I hope you're following all this, but we'll see. So thought is responsible. Intellect is responsible for the war in Vietnam, for the war between you, your wife or husband, war between your neighbor, war within yourself. Thought has generated this, which is the function of the intellect. And also, of course, the intellect also invents the computer, the aeroplane, the atomic bomb, the missiles that will destroy thousands of people. And also the intellect, the thought, has given modern man comfort. So man says, if he's at all aware, can thought bring about this change?
The final extract in this episode is from the first talk in New York, 1971, and is titled, "You Are Totally Responsible for What is Happening in the World."
Everybody is talking nowadays about outward revolution, physical revolution. Gather all your energy to bring about a social revolution. Always thinking in terms of outward changes, changes in the environment. We have human problems. And we're always talking about bringing an outward revolution to change the social structure, either through violence or through peaceful means. The problem is much deeper than mere social, environmental change, either in ecology, economy, or in the social morality. Because the social morality is immoral. So, we are concerned with our human problems, because what we are, actually, our society is. The society, the world is us, depending on our relationship, on our behavior, on our fears and pleasures, on our despairs, and the desire for psychological security and dependence. So this world is us, and we are the world. And to bring about a radical revolution in this world, we have to change not merely the environment, and more books and philosophies and politicians, and I'm afraid also the scientists are concerned with the changing of the world outside. And apparently very few are concerned with a radical inward revolution. Because if we don't change, if we are corrupt, what's the good of having a perfect social structure? We will corrupt it. I think that's fairly obvious and logical. And we are apt to forget this. Because we think, change the environment, as the communists, others do. Change the structure, political, economic, social. And the human being then will adjust himself to the structure. He'll become righteous. He'll become non-violent. He will live peacefully. All these experiments have been tried before, either forcefully or peacefully. But man apparently has remained as what he is for millennia. Greedy, envious, aggressive, brutal, self-centered, shedding every kind of misery in the world. So, the world, both the outer world and the inner world, is what we are. We have made that. There is no division between you and the world and the me. I think that's a basic thing that one must understand radically. That there are not individuals in the community, a society, a world apart from us. We are the world. If you examine yourselves, you will see what you are is the result of your culture, of your environment, which you have created, or your grandfathers, grandmothers have created it. You are the result of the past. And without changing the whole past, the whole structure of our past, we want to change the outer things, better bathrooms, go to the moon to play golf, or plant some ugly flag in the moon, and you think you are technologically tremendously advanced. Probably you are. But it's not going to solve our misery, our conflicts, our extraordinary dullness of our minds, and the utter lack of love and compassion. So, if we could see the reality, not as a theory, not as a speculative thing to which we adjust, but the actual fact that we are the world, we are the result of the culture in which we live, and that culture which we have created. We are the past. And to live differently, and we must live differently, with a totally different kind of mind and heart. We have to understand ourselves, not according to any philosopher or any psychologist, as actually what we are. And so one has to observe So, if we could, not theoretically, not intellectually accept the fact that you are the world, and the world is you, what you are, actually, in your relationship with another, you create the culture. You are utterly, totally responsible for the wars, for the misery, for the social injustice, for everything that's going on about us. The chaos, the suffering. And apparently, we don't want to face that. And that's going to be our difficulty. We have so cleverly and cunningly escaped from ourselves through religion, through philosophy, through entertainment, whether that entertainment be religious or football or whatever it is. We have a network of escapes, and we slip through them so quickly. And because we escape, we have many frustrations. And in that frustration, which we almost worship, we produce every kind of literature, drama, art, and all that in no way solves our human daily existence. And that's what we are concerned. At least that's what the speaker is concerned with. Not only to observe what is happening in our souls, but also bring about in our souls, both in our minds, in the structure of our brain cells, and also in our heart, a radical psychological revolution. For that is the only revolution. There is no other revolution. Mere physical revolution is so very primitive. It hurts, destroys people. In the name of bringing about a good society. You kill people in order to bring about a good society. The contradiction, the stupidity of it. And we accept it. Either quietly or violently, we accept this philosophy that outwardly we must change first, and then we human beings, like so many monkeys, will conform to the pattern established by the intellectuals or the economists. So I think from the beginning, if I may repeat that over again, one has to realize non-verbally, non-theoretically, actually see it. As you know for yourself when you are hungry, that you are the world and the world is you. Really, if you see that, that's the most marvelous thing that can happen to a human being. Because then you become totally, utterly responsible.